Hello and welcome to episode 9 of Hull Seahawks Behind the Curtain. In what is a very special week, we've got our first sort of double bumper episode, and we're kicking it off today with a chat with both Matty Davies and Nathan Salem. So first of all, obviously, Matty, thanks for joining us once again. But Nathan, absolute pleasure to have you here on Behind the Curtain for the first time.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thanks for having us.
Of course, we've got a fun-filled show, throughout the day today. A little bit of fun that we're going to try at the end as well. But we're going to go straight into this with, a little bit of chat about your time as a junior hockey player. Of course, your dad was around the British leagues, through the late 80s and 90s, and about how you then, obviously, I'm sure you were there watching your dad, and then got into junior hockey yourself, and sort of your junior career before you sort of made that step up.
Yeah, so I think I started skating when I was around 3 or 4. Obviously, my dad did play. It's kind of all I knew when I was younger, going to hockey. When I was very young, he used to take us to training. When I wasn't at school, I was kind of the summer holidays and whatever. So yeah, I started off in Whitley Bay, moved across to Sunderland for a couple of seasons when I was under 12s, and then spent the rest of my junior career in Whitley Bay, and then through to the Warriors.
And of course, sort of through your time with the Whitley Warriors, then you made that step up to the Newcastle Vipers pretty early on in your career, didn't you? When they were in the Elite League, sort of late noughties.
Yeah. I think I stepped up when I was about 17. I probably, kind of looking back now, I probably wasn't ready at the time to make that step up. Probably should have went to the EPL first and kind of worked me up and way up from there. But I'm pleased to where I've got now.
So sort of 2009, 10, 11, Matty, of course, you were, with Hull in the Elite League at the time. Do you remember sort of Nathan coming through in those early days?
Yeah, obviously me and Nath not, quite close in age. So mainly I remember we used to obviously play against Newcastle in Whitley Bay, and it was just that absolute carnage. Like, I can't even, looking back now, the fact that there was an Elite League team in that rink is hilarious. So I remember him from there, but also from earlier on as well. I think we used to do like camps and stuff, and up there, used to go up there quite a lot. I think we had like Sean Skinner camps and stuff like that. And obviously like the odd England stuff or conference. We'll have played maybe conference a couple of times. I
think it was every other year.
Every other year, wasn't it? Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so yeah, we've played a lot together. I know his mum and dad really well. Spent a lot of time with them. Did we do Quebec, Nath?
No, I was the year after.
You was the one after, wasn't it?
Yeah. GB20s and
GB20s. That's
Hungary.
Right. Yeah. So like I say, we've known each other a long time, and we've never crossed paths sort of on the same team, but almost just like missed each other on several teams. And I mean, like I say, when this was happening, it was I was pretty clear on getting Nath. Rang him pretty early on and just had a good chat. Obviously it was a bit of a sticky situation at the time, obviously, with where he was and stuff like that, but we made it happen, and I'm glad we did. We obviously we showed a lot of faith in him, trying to get him here, but he's paid that back in spades. And obviously last year was his fair share in Hull, but I think it showed everyone how good he is, and I think there's a lot more to come.
No, I think that, I say, all the Seahawks fans watching Nath last year will certainly agree that it was one of the best pickups for the Seahawks last year. We see that certainly on the ice, off the ice too. But talking of that move to come to the Seahawks, then Nath, sort of for yourself, of course, Matty, will have got in touch with you. I'm assuming pretty early on. Was it? Matty's making it sound as if it wasn't quite a straightforward one, bringing you here. Sort of, how did that move all come about?
So I think I got a phone call from Matty, and I think it was about March, April time, was it?
Yeah.
About March, April time, obviously I was playing in Peterborough, and when I left Sheffield, signing Peterborough, I'd already signed for a year and a half. Um, then obviously I signed with our Hull, like in knowing Hull were going to have a team that season or the year afterwards anyway. And when I got the phone call from Matty, I thought it was the right thing to do, kind of play closer to the home, and I enjoyed my time in Hull last time with the players that were there. So I thought that was the right choice for me to do.
And of course, certainly, a fantastic season, from what we all saw on the ice last year. In terms of years at the Pirates, though, so obviously 2 years, second season of which I believe was as captain as well. What is it that you enjoyed about your time in Hull last time that sort of, you had those fond memories of that, other than, the distance, made you think that the Seahawks would have been the right option for last season?
Uh, I just think because obviously the guys that are playing on the team now, there was a few guys that played at the Pirates last time that I got on with pretty well. So it was kind of quite an easy choice for us to come back because I knew a few players in the team anyway. Yeah.
And then, of course, onto the Seahawks sort of last year. With obviously yourself and Sam Towner, of course, pretty early on in the season, you were sort of some of the more experienced forwards, but this is something we talked a lot about last year. We spoke about it, on repeat almost, that there was an issue, the issue with the imports, and of course yourself and Sam were sort of really sort of asked to sort of carry the team in terms of point scoring a lot of the time. Of course, there's some great support from some of the younger lads and a few of the other, more experienced guys there, but you had to really do sort of a lot of the heavy lifting. How did you sort of find that? Because I'm sure that's not the situation that you expected at the start of the year, but obviously more than happy to do for last season.
No, yeah, it was tough. I mean, I think we had 3 lines to start the season without the imports, and then suddenly, 4 or 5 weeks in, we just started getting injuries and injuries and injuries. We ended up by playing probably 5-6 weeks with about 7 forwards, 4D. It was tough. Traveling to Bristol on a Saturday night and not getting back till 3 in the morning, playing 2 lines, and then having to do the same again on a Sunday. Yeah, it was a massive task.
I'm sure it was, and of course, Matty, that we spoke about this when Sam was on the show as well, but particularly Sam and Nathan did really, really step up, didn't they? And there was a lot of difficult games in that early period, September, October, November, and throughout from that first win in late October, these guys, and before that as well, they were really sort of doing everything they could to sort of keep Seahawks in games, and everyone and every single fan certainly has some great gratitude for that, don't they?
Yeah, 100%. I think no more than me, really. I think it was we said it over and over. It was a tough situation. It was. I think it was actually tough for me because I was leaving the lads sort of in a little bit of a shit, really, because obviously we had the plans was obviously for me to play as well, and obviously that just didn't happen. But it was one of them where we just dealt with it, and me and Nath had plenty of chats at the time, and Sam, obviously we spoke about that with Towns, but they just worked hard for me. They did what they can, and what they could, and at the time it was, there was times in games where I was, just asking them to sort of just do everything for me, really. I mean, there was, we had 2 lines at times and barely any D, and it's difficult. It's difficult for anyone. And, I probably felt more sorry for Nath, if I'm being honest, because, Nathan signed with sort of a team in mind that I'd said, it was going to be here, and obviously that didn't quite work out to be the team at first. Obviously we all know why, but it's still difficult to try and get someone to fully buy in when it's not quite what they're maybe signed up for. But Nath was completely buying in, and I think everyone could see how much he was putting in on the ice, and there was times where he literally put the team on his back, and did some did some really good stuff for us, and obviously, showed with his points. But I think with Nathan, he actually showed a little bit more to his game than just, that side of it. And, for me, obviously not being sort of as close, seeing Nathan, week in, week out, it's difficult to actually know sort of where his game is completely. But, speaking to people and just best guess, and obviously I'd played against him so many times, I knew what he was good at. But I was probably asking him to sort of, be a lot more responsible this year and sort of play maybe a different role to what he's played in the past. I know he was playing centre in Peterborough and then came sort of here and then started playing centre as well. But, he had a little bit more responsibility just in general, just obviously with the team and how young we were and the players that we didn't have in. So, yeah, he had probably a little bit more responsibility in that sense. But, like I say, he just stuck with it and, waited for the team that was always going to come. And, we had some great games when everyone was there. And, but I actually think overall it probably didn't work out to exactly what, I had envisaged in my mind. Nath had a, really good relationship last time with Temi, and that just didn't quite work out the same anymore. For whatever reason, we're not really sure, but things happen and change, and that's just the way it goes. But we ended up sort of shuffling it around a little bit, and Nathan actually became sort of a leader on his line and leading sort of the British lads. Sort of at the end of the season to what last month or two, and he took sort of again a lot of responsibility in that way, and played with arguably people that are generally top two line players. Obviously when we had Finn, that really helped. But from that it was, the drop off was, at times it was obviously too big, and that's why we ended up where we were. And like I say, Nath put everything in that I asked him for, to do. And but like I say, I actually think he's got more to give this year. I think with a better team, I think Nathan's a better player when he has better players around him. He's someone that feeds off other good players well. He's not someone that's generally going to be on his own out there and do everything by himself. He's a team player and he likes to make plays, and he needs to get the puck in good areas. He's a shooter, but also can get in good areas to pass as well. So, yeah, obviously this year we've got, a really good top six, and Nate's going to be a big part of that. So, yeah, I've rambled there a lot, but standard me. But yeah, so like I say, Nate was great last year. I'm really grateful for what he did for me.
Obviously, a good point that Matty mentioned there was, of course, it was the team. Obviously, at the start of the year, wasn't arguably what was promised. Any sort of, I'm sure there wasn't, but any sort of regrets maybe in your mind, sort of in those early few months, or was it a case of believing in the team, believing in sort of what we were building here, and knowing that obviously better things were coming on the way around?
No, yeah, I was just definitely believing in the team. I mean, and that's the team that we had. And lucky enough, we had a great group of guys who wanted to play for each other week in, week out. No matter what the score for, we're getting beat. I think the first two games we got beat 12-0 away in Swindon and 11-0 at home against MK, I think, something like that. But, we never gave up. And I think from then we're just kind of building it, and we're just kind of waiting for the imports to come in. And then obviously we got Emil, and I think he only lasted about 23 minutes. Unfortunately, but yeah. And when we got them both in, obviously it did change a lot. And obviously we started competing more because we had that a little bit more depth in the team.
No, certainly so. I think it was the final weekend before Christmas, the first time we saw both Emil and Andre on the ice together. Which
I think it was, yeah.
It's crazy considering that even sort of maybe, early January, sort of late January time, there was still hopes of this late charge for the playoffs, which is, still an achievement in itself, don't want to say it was a highly successful year because, we all know it wasn't, but it was a case of there's certainly the building blocks there. And obviously that's what everyone, is certainly grateful for this year moving on. One thing I do want to mention is something that me and Matty discussed quite a few times, both on air, I think, and off the air actually last year, that obviously throughout your career you've spent no more than maybe say 2-3 years at most teams. I think Telford, Sheffield, those sort of places. Matty seems to think that obviously you've bought in here. You seem to be certainly faithful of what's being built here. Is this sort of the right sort of environment, the right sort of team that you can sort of settle down in? Because obviously not. Well, it's the later years of your career, age of 31, without wanting to sound rude or anything. But, of course, is that sort of the role that you see you have here? A veteran who can sort of both bring players through, but certainly still also add your quality on the ice as well.
No, yeah, I think it is. I think just even last year, I know we didn't have the greatest of years, say on the ice, but the group of guys that we had were a great group of guys. And that's what I kind of want to be part of for the future, because I know a lot of them guys are going to be around for years to come as well, and I want to be part of the success that's going to happen in Hull.
And of course, Matty, that's the word that we all strive for, isn't it? And so we're not going to go shouting from the rooftops, trophies are on the way, but that is the aim of every single person involved in this club, isn't it? On the ice and off the ice. We want to be a successful team. We want to have success here at this club. It's what this city has always, always wanted, always expected of its teams. And Nathan's going to be a huge part of that, isn't he?
Yeah, he's like everyone else in there that, I've signed this year. Is everyone in there in my head is a winner in terms of, they might not have won everything in their career, or some people might not have won anything, but it's just their mindset and how they are as people. And honestly, that's what I'm signing for first. That's the one quality that I want, and I think, last year, we had, like Nath said, we had a great group of lads. Everyone got along really well, but and that is great, and we're going to have that again. But unfortunately, I want a little bit more of a competitive environment. And that don't mean you can't have fun and have a laugh with everyone, because that's what the best teams always have. That everyone gets along and as banter and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we need a little bit more of a an environment that's built for winning. And sometimes that's not the nicest environments to be in, but what the biggest key for me is that everyone understands what it is. Nothing is personal to anyone. It's just, we're there to win and we're there to do a job. And that's sort of always been, me and sort of my way that I've always sort of been around, clubs and on the ice. Probably a lot of people probably think, whatever of me in terms of, he's angry or he's, whatever. But it was always just simply that, I just had to win, and it was always about winning. It was always about just everything in terms of little battles, win, every day at training, weekends. I just couldn't lose anything. But that's just sort of the mentality that I want to drip into everyone that works at the club. And we have to start that now. And all the lads, already know I've spoke to everyone that, this year's a very important year for the club. Again, we've spoke about this, but the first year you get that little pass, but I didn't like that in general. But this year, there's going to be none of that. It's we're coming in and we're ready to work, and everyone there, like I say, Nathan's got that, in abundance. He's someone that wants to win, and he's a fighter. on the ice, and he's someone that, like you say, he's been there, he's done it in difficult places, he's done it, in hard leagues where, he's asked to play roles and stuff. So, like I say, this year it's about signing good people. The room was great last year, and it's going to be another great year in terms of that, and keeping everyone really close and bonding together and fighting for each other when they're playing. But it's going to be a real competitive atmosphere this year, and we won't accept anything other than the best on the ice, the best that they can give, and sort of everyone's going to turn up to work.
No, certainly so. Of course, that's what all the fans are absolutely craving for. That the successful sort of whole feeling around the club that this is a club that's moving forward, sort of certainly not backward. One thing I do want to obviously sort of touch upon is obviously Nathan, as one of the veteran sort of voices of the team, sort of the most experienced forward, you'd certainly say. Is there anything that you're doing there also to support Matty sort of off the ice? There's a lot of young guys, in this club, we've got the players under 18, such as Owen, Reece Edwards as well now on the two-way. You have Alex and Deck there as well, who's still only 18, 19. There's a lot of sort of young forwards who, are certainly going to be appreciative, of, having that sort of, really good relationship with someone as experienced as yourself. And you've had a player coach role back in Sheffield before. Is that something that you're sort of doing in a non-official capacity in a way off the ice? Is that something, obviously, Matty, you're grateful for, to see those veteran players sort of doing what they can to bring the younger talents through? I just want to know both your thoughts on that one, really.
Yeah, I mean, look, Nath is, someone that, I respect his opinion on stuff, and, we do speak about certain parts of it. We had several chats this year just sort of about his game and how he's getting on and how he feels in the role that he's playing. I now lean on certain people, and Nath was one of them, just asking him generally, just, how it's going, how he feels the team are, doing out there, and, does he feel like we're going in the right direction, stuff like that. There's a few other guys like that, Deck Barmer, Sam, and there'll be more this year. But it's one of them where, I said this a few weeks ago that, in the best teams that I've ever played on, the room almost runs itself. It doesn't need me in there, telling everyone constantly about, doing this and doing that. And I think you just drown people out when you do that. And I suppose, I've got to work on that as well. Last year was a real eye-opening experience, and obviously the first time I've ever done it. And I had a real, sort of quite a difficult group to manage last year, just in terms of how inexperienced we was. And we had some difficult times. There was times in the season, and Nath will be able to tell you that it was honestly looking around at each other like, what do we do now? And it was just like one of them things where we just, I was lost for words at times, and that's not ever really been me. So yeah, look, it's one of them things where I think, like I said before, there's enough leaders in that room, and Nath definitely one of them, that they can deal with what needs to be said in the room. I don't need to be in there telling everyone that we need to work hard. If I have to do that, then we've got, we're already in the wrong mindset, and we're already in the wrong place from day one, because they should know my feelings on that, and everyone, I hope are working hard for me, and I hope I don't ever lose the room in that way. So, and I think, again, I'm there to sort of guide everyone in terms of how I want everyone to play. And we had a clear, way of playing last year, and a sort of a philosophy, if you want. And everyone knew what that was. And everyone stuck to it no matter what. And I think that's, when Nath says it's a good room, I think it was a good room, because everyone was still, trying to do what I was saying, and try and play the way I wanted us to play. So yeah, again, Nath is 100% one of them guys that, I'll be leaning on on a regular basis.
And of course,
Yeah, I totally agree with everything.
just going to say on your side of things, is that just everything that rings true? Of course, just happy to help when wherever needed. As Matty says, is one of those sort of veteran voices.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of look back when I was kind of like 16, 17, 18, when I was, young, playing for Newcastle, and kind of what them senior players were like with me. They were patient, they were good with us. Even when I signed in Telford and I was a little bit older, when I had Silverthorne and Weaver there, I still learned a lot of them and stuff like that. So I'm just kind of trying to pass my knowledge down to the younger players now, like Owen and Deck Jones and stuff like that, and just trying to help and develop them as much as I can.
Of course, and who better to hear that from than the forward of the year from last year, of course, from last year's awards ceremony, the Seahawks 22-23 forward of the year. Stat line: 20 goals, 33 assists. 53 points in the 51 games. Very, very successful season. On the ice as well, Nathan. It's got to be said. Some phenomenal play throughout the year. One of my moments of the year on the commentary last year. I think it may have been in the Peterborough game just before Christmas. I can't quite remember. Back to the goal. I think he did about 3 laps of the netminder, then just found Lee Pollitt in the slot for an absolutely fantastic goal. But it's got to be said, fantastic year, in terms of the point scoring as well. Is that just something, with even more quality in that top 6 this year that you look to, push on and, see exactly how far you can go this year?
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I always have targets before the season starts, kind of realistic targets that I hope to hit kind of before Christmas. Yeah, I mean, I would have liked to done a bit better last year, obviously, to help the team a bit more, because there was times when I was playing well and there was times when I was playing bad. Throughout the year, there's been a little bit too much inconsistent. I don't think, I started off the season as well as I should have last year. Obviously, which is kind of down to my own fault, but like Matt, you said, it's going to be a lot more competitive this year, on the ice, off the ice, when we're doing both training on and off the ice, so I'm going to make sure when I come into the season this year, I'm ready to go.
And of course, Matty, I'm sure when it came to those awards, I'm sure it's a very tough decision, of course, particularly on the forward of the year side of things. Emil had a phenomenal year as well, nearly 2 points a game. But me and Martin, I think we did some little predictions the week before, and I think we both, predicted Nathan for the award. Is it for yourself as well, entirely the right man for that award? Of course, point a game, throughout the season, really sort of standing up where needs to.
Yeah, it was honestly an easy one, that one. There was no, Emil had a good end to the season, but he unfortunately just came in too late, and there was a long time where Emil was struggling, and Nath, was, the biggest thing with Nath, I'm genuinely proud of him, is he came in to the season, and it was a tough summer. I won't go into detail with it, but there was a lot going on sort of behind the scenes with Nath and stuff like that, and we managed to get sort of that stuff resolved. But Nath will admit he wasn't as ready as he would have liked to be coming in the season, and I think a lot of players would have just sort of kept in that mindset and said, this is what it is now, and look to next year. But he made the changes that I needed to. I've never seen anyone sort of get in such good shape during the season that he did, and honestly, I was proud of him for doing that, because that's not easy to do when you've got to play so many minutes. You've got a young kid at home, and you work every day. It's really difficult, and he proved himself, to me, and that's probably one of the biggest things, for me personally, and I know Joe has the same feeling on it. I really care about stuff like that, because obviously that's always been sort of me as well, in terms of you have to be prepared. There's no two ways about it. You're there to do a job, and that's how it is. And Nathan is that guy as well, and I think he just sort of he sort of took his eye off the ball maybe a little bit, and I know he won't do that again. He's going to come into this year flying, and yeah, I think we're going to see a very good Nathan from game one, and he can really make us a top team, and really look at the top of the league for a realistic target for us.
I'm just looking through I'm actually looking at the tweet from when Nathan got the 50th point of the season. And you can just see from the fans' responses, how much they took to Nathan once again last year. They could certainly appreciate the effort. People saying need to get Nathan signed up for next year. I think by this point, I think he might have already been in, just hadn't been announced yet.
Yeah.
I think best player all year in my opinion. Someone says great stuff. Need the man back for next year. These are exactly what the fans were saying. On what turned out to be a huge game for yourself, hitting that 50-point mark. Of course, Nathan, you said you set yourself targets. Was that roughly sort of the points target you set yourself? Did you sort of want a little bit more last year, or you said obviously yourself, you at times you maybe thought you could have played a little bit better, but is that point a game sort of a good realistic target for yourself in sort of the top six?
Yeah, I do think it's kind of a realistic target. I mean, with the players that Matty's brought in, for this coming season, I think, potentially I could get, I could maybe beat that. Obviously, I'm just trying to work my hardest this summer, so I can be as fit as I can coming into the season. And yeah, I have targets, but, you kind of want to beat them targets as well. So that's what I'm hoping.
Just that thing of continually improving year on year, even as an experienced player, it's exactly what every competitor should be saying. One thing I will just pick on, it's something that me and Matty of course mentioned. I think it was after the same game, actually the 50th point game. It was 2 points on the night and 8 pims, but that's just sort of part of your game, isn't it? That playing right to the fine margin, when you're constantly on the forecheck, trying to win the puck back in dangerous areas, trying to sort of get that little bit extra on the hit to try and gain that advantage in centre ice. You're going to pick up a few penalties, but Matty wasn't going to have it any other way. He wants you playing at your absolute limit, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. I mean, I probably took a little bit, maybe too many penalties last year. I think that's the game where I literally came out the box and I think I skated halfway across the ice, and then I turned, I had to go back, and I could hear Emil shouting at us from the bench. That was kind of a little bit of a situation, that one. I quite like to play the game on the edge. Some people, might say it's been a bit of a rat, but it's kind of what I enjoy doing as well.
And of course, Matty, it was after that game. I think it was the first time on the live stream we'd done sort of a little post-match interview down at the behind the benches. And of course, it was the first question I put to you, and you were saying you wouldn't have it any other way. It's that thing of you want to gain those advantages on the ice, and even as Nave said there, maybe a little bit of an advantage up in the mental side of things as well. It's exactly sort of what you want your players doing, isn't it? To sort of try and squeeze every little last bit they can out of the time on the ice.
Yeah, 100%. I think you've got to put up with the other side of it if you want your lads to play sort of on the edge. And look, we've got a few of them this year, sign a few more. But I want a team like that. I want a team that's difficult to play against. I don't want anyone, coming into our building thinking that it's going to be an easy night. And no matter what people think about, you can't play like that anymore, or you can't, do this and do that anymore. But at the end of the day, I still believe you can play hard. You can still play hard hockey. You don't need to run people over. There's plenty of, of other things you can do. And, look, Nath Smart, he's been there, done it. He's played for a long time and played on that edge for a long time. And like you say, he's saying, a bit ratty, but, there's, Brad Marchand, there's plenty of other people that are, the best in the world that play on the edge. And it's just who they are. You're not going to take it out of them. I'd never ask him to not do that. I've never have. There's times when you want guys to not take penalties, of course, and he had a couple this year. I mean, the ban was not his fault. I don't think. I think it was, harsh. Looking back at it now, but yeah, like I say, it is what it is. But I wouldn't change it. I think, the problem we're going to have this year is we've got, like I say, a couple more lads to add to it, and these lads are going to feed off each other. So honestly, I genuinely feel sorry for some teams coming into our building. It's going to be a tough night for everyone, and but again, that's why I've signed it. I wanted that. We need to be an intimidating team, and a team that's, like I say, we're gonna, get all over you and play really hard, but we're gonna, just overwhelm teams, and that's the goal for us. And other than being a bunch of rats and a bunch of lads that are playing hard, and playing hard every night, and maybe talking, but also backing it up with playing hard hockey, hitting, and being hard on sticks. We're going to be the fittest team in the league, and that's the biggest thing for me. We will be very fit, and I make sure of that. Even last year we had a fit team. We just ran out of steam. I think we was potentially doing a little bit too much, but unfortunately that's just how it felt. But and yeah, look, this year's again we've got 4 lines. We've got a really deep team, and I think it's going to pay off for us this year. And like I say, we're gonna be a fit, hard team.
That's the thing, isn't it? You want it to be hard but fair, and let's be honest, you want teams to absolutely dread that trip to Hull on the Sunday, knowing that they're going to have the hardest 60 minutes they might have all season. That's sort of the mentality you want, our team to evoke, in the opposition, isn't it? From game, 1 to however many it is this year, I think 56, they're going to know they're going to be in for a hard night. But we are just going to sort of move tack slightly, sort of away from sort of my questions. I have had some fan questions in as well, Nathan. One of them we've alluded to already, but someone said, do you have any goals for this year, and can you allude to them a little bit more as to what they are? So you mentioned already, maybe going a little bit more than a point a game. Is there anything else specific, goals, assist targets, or is it just a case of doing what you can on the ice to sort of benefit the team?
Yeah, I just think kind of doing what I can on the ice benefit the team. I mean, my targets are usually always trying to improve on the previous year, to kind of try to beat last year. And then obviously the season afterwards, we'll be trying to beat the year before. That's always my targets, to kind of try to improve and get better every season.
Next one, I think, Matty, I think you might have already answered this one on a previous show, but I'll throw it to you if not. Favourite rink to play in?
The favourite rink I've probably played in is probably Belfast. In our league, trying to think, I quite like playing in Milton Keynes or Hull. To be fair, even when I wasn't playing for Hull and I was obviously playing for Sheffield and Telford, I did enjoy playing in Hull as well.
Matty, I think it was actually the worst rink we've asked you before, and I think the answer was categorically Basingstoke. But your favourite, Matty?
Yeah, I think maybe, Nath said one there. I think Belfast is always a good one, but always really difficult. So I don't know if we had many good nights in there, but I always like, Braid, Glasgow. That was always a nice rink. Any of them arena teams really, are always good. But yeah, in this rink, in this league, sorry, I think the rinks are all pretty similar but different as well, in terms of none of them are obviously arena rinks, but they're all sort of Planet Ice rinks really. There's mainly all them. So I think for this league, I would say Leeds is a pretty perfect rink in terms of the size of it. The ice is still pretty good at this stage. It's probably only going to get worse over the years, and that's what generally happens to them. But yeah, Leeds is a good one. But honestly, I always say this, but Hull's ice is, notoriously probably the best ice in the league. In our league, especially when when it don't cut up or it's not too wet, it's pretty good ice. But yeah, Nath said it. MK is good, but I hate playing in MK. It was too big for me. Couldn't get
It's
around
too dark there as well.
Too dark, too big.
Too dark.
So.
Next one, would you rather get a hat-trick on the night or an overtime winner?
Overtime winner. Yeah, 100%.
Next one. So continue.
Oh, no, yeah. No, you can carry on. Sorry.
Someone's asked, if Towner is the points man, what would your nickname be?
Oh, Niff.
The myth.
We've also got another one. So this one came up from Facebook. Can't remember who it was from, but someone who seems to get under the skin of opposition fans quite regularly. Are there any fans in particular when you enjoy winding up?
None really off the top of my head, to be fair. I mean, I can't really think of any off the top of my head, to be honest. I don't really try to, kind of go out my way to wind up fans. It's just probably the kind of way I play. So I probably would say most fans probably have the same feeling about us, to be fair. So,
of course, what we're going to do now, a little bit of a different one for us here on Behind the Curtain. We're just going to pin Nathan on the screen for this one. We're going to have a little bit of a game. So I'm going to throw Nathan 10 Seahawks players or staff or people associated with the club. And Nathan's going to have to describe them in one word and one word only. Okay, so we'll start off with Matty Davies.
Matty. Graft.
Jordan McLaughlin.
Pingu.
Sam Towner.
Chinny.
Good.
Jordan Fisher.
Cross trainer.
Owen Bruton.
Owen Bruton, that's a tough one, that. Colin.
Yeah, Colin.
Emil Svack.
Strange.
Joe Lamplu.
Jay-Z.
Tom Stubley.
Tom Stubley. I probably can't say the one that I was going to say, but no, I can't. Weird.
Very weird.
Deck Barmer.
Jeff.
Well, that's pretty much brought us to the end of Hull Seahawks Behind the Curtain today, episode 9 with Matty Davies and Nathan Salem. I've got to say, first of all, thank you very much for joining us, Matty. Pleasure as always.
Yeah, cheers, pal. Thanks for having me.
And I've got to say, thank you very much for the guest appearance from Nathan. Pleasure having you on. Hope that maybe at some point during later in the year, you'll be able to join us again.
Yeah, of course. That sounds good, yeah. No problem at all. Thanks for having us.
I'd say that's been the end of episode 9 of Hull Seahawks Behind the Curtain. But we do have another episode for you this week, and that'll be released this Saturday afternoon with a very special guest. Make sure you tune into that one on Saturday as well. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe, and follow on wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcast, or the YouTube videos too. I've been Connor Lynn, and this has been Behind the Curtain. Enjoy, and thank you very much for tuning in.